Welcome to Once Upon a Real Life with Belle, and this is a podcast about real life, just as it is. Each episode is an honest conversation about the moments that challenge us and sometimes surprise us. No filters, no pretending. Quick thanks to the show sponsor, ActiveFlex. If you're looking for pain-relieving gel with long-lasting relief for painful muscles and joints, you can use my discount code, BELLE10, for 10% off. Just visit alphasport.com.au. Let's begin today's episode. Today's guest knows exactly what power looks like because she stood in rooms where it was traded, tested, and abused. Laurie Marsden was one of the faces of the 80s and 90s fashion elite. Covers of Vogue and Harper's Bazaar. She had the glamour, the access, and the illusion of control. But behind the couture and camera flashes was a world ruled by unspoken rules, where access and opportunity often came at a price. The moment came where Laurie stopped playing the game and she walked away from the runway, earned a master's in social work from Columbia University and rebuilt herself as a psychotherapist and women's advocate. When Me Too exploded, she didn't whisper, she went public. 60 Minutes, BBC, CBS, The Guardian, then the EU Parliament and the French Senate, demanding systemic change. Now, in her memoir, Men and Me Too, Laurie does something provocative. She refuses the simple villain narrative. Yes, she names abuse. Yes, she exposes power. But she also talks about good men, allies, mentors. This conversation is about power. It's about boundaries, about the cost of speaking out. Laurie Marsden, welcome. Let's go there.
Wow, thank you, Belinda. That is just a wonderful introduction, and I think you captured the gist of what I was doing with the book and the way that I am just outreaching to connect, to get us all on the same page and feel empowered. And, the world is changing before our eyes. It's such a dynamic moment. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you. And I'm really honored to be a big part of the conversation that's happening in the world right now.
I've read that probably 10 times, and just saying it gave me goosebumps.
Thank you. I don't think anyone puts their hand up necessarily straight away to say, I'm going to come forward and talk about, one of the worst experiences of my life. It's interesting because when I did agree to talk to Lucy Osborne at The Guardian initially, I was just going to talk to her anonymously. I thought, well, okay, I have something to add to this conversation, but I don't want to get involved. I want to contribute, but I want to protect my privacy. I don't want to be named and have my face out there. So that was my plan. And then while I was waiting to talk to Lucy, she's in London and I was here in Australia, I just sort of Googled my name to see, well, if she did that, what would come up? And there was a video of me giving a speech at a women's march in Sag Harbor. I gave speeches at 2 women's marches. And there I am. I've got a bullhorn, because there was several hundred people there, but it wasn't all that well organized. And I'm like really advocating for change and stop violence against women. And I just looked at this video and I said, well, that woman would come forward and she would lend her name to this fight. She wouldn't be anonymous and frightened. And so that changed my mind. And I used my name and I came forward. And that was, quite a few years ago now. I hadn't really anticipated all the twists and turns and the various interest it would get. I think, some of the Me Too stories that initially came out, they were attractive to press because they were, glamorous industries. It was, the movie industry, and it was the news industry, people who were on camera. But as I got more into it and I realized as more and more women were coming forward in that initial Me Too moment, women from police forces and fire departments and business women. And it was like from all walks of life and all careers, women were experiencing the same thing.
Sexual. It is all of us. It is all
of us. It was all of
Everybody
us.
has a story.
Yeah. I was about to do the interview, so it was all coming out, but I had that split second decision to make right before I went on, and I just changed my mind, and so yeah, I feel grateful. I've talked to so many women friends, and as you say, it's like we're all almost in the same boat, right? I know very. I don't actually think I know a woman who doesn't have some story about
Agreed.
being assaulted, or the R word, or having a pay for play mentality, complete power imbalances. And I think it's a real reckoning. I think one of the biggest reckonings since the 60s and 70s, when women were initially fighting for rights and equal pay. I looked at that as a key moment. And I also, obviously, the suffragettes and all the work they did, I look at that as a key moment for women gaining more equality. But I see this as almost as important, if not more, because what sexual assault does is, and the threat of career punishment, is it holds women back in a really insidious way, so that it might not be noticed by other people in the office, or it might not be seen, but it's a manner of control and of holding women back from having a voice, from feeling safe, from advancing in their career. And that's really not acceptable anymore. So yeah, it's great that this is all changing, and we're all talking about it. And so much movement.
Oh, yes. And the fact that you have these stories and you've lived them, they're your reality. And because I find that at the time when the Me Too came out, there was that, is she telling the truth? Is this the truth? So as a reader or a consumer, you were left wondering and hanging, what is this? And the more of us that come out, it is the truth. Like we said, we live it. Okay, so let's talk about little Laurie. Who was little Laurie and where was she born?
Well, little Laurie was born in a small town outside of Buffalo, New York. It was a snow town. It was, very cold for most of the year, about three months worth of summer. It would get pretty hot in the summertime. I used to build igloos when I was growing up. That's how much snow Buffalo and that area has due to Lake Erie. I was youngest of four. We were sort of a middle-class family. My parents were very busy, had older brothers and sisters, and it was very provincial in a lot of ways. It was very sort of limited, I think, because my parents were busy running a household and both working. I sort of was, I didn't get, like, it wasn't like parenting today, right? Where,
And also,
parents,
child, there's something to be said for that as well.
yeah, it's not like everybody was checking in on how I was feeling all the time when I was growing up. So, I sort of grew up a little bit shy, a little bit insecure on the boundary of like the different dynamics going on in the family, and so I sort of grew up like that, very not really very confident, and not really sure who I was and where I fit in. But one thing I did know is that I felt that I wanted to get away, to sort of break away from this area, is somewhat idyllic as it was back then, with that free range childhood that people had, where you left and you could just go, and people didn't worry about monitoring you all the time. So there was a lot of that sort of freedom. You know what I mean, right? Yeah. Totally free range. So there were lovely aspects of it, but I did feel, I've just really felt strongly that it was in my journey to leave. So
you had dreams. What were the dreams?
The modeling opportunity was really a fluke, and then it was a shock to me. So on a whim, there was a modeling school. It was more like, how to present yourself socially, and it also had this modeling component to it. So I saw that there was a free scholarship available in one of the dress shops in the local mall. So I was with my friends. I was maybe 13, 14 at the time, and I wrote my name on a piece of paper, no photo, just wrote my name, dropped it in, and they picked my name out of the box. And I won this scholarship.
Where'd you go? Where was it?
So it was called John Robert Powers, and it was a modeling school that was like throughout the US. It was very big at the time. I mean, even Michael Gross, who's written an extensive history of the modeling industry, you know, he mentions them and their influence in early stages. I think John Robert Powers himself was an agent at some point, and then he opened all these schools. So it's well before, you know, John Casablanca and you know, the Look of the Years and all this sort of stuff. It was a feeder into the industry as well. So
Right. Was it outside of Buffalo?
no, it was in downtown. So it was about a 20-minute drive because we lived in a suburb of Buffalo. But my parents agreed to drive me. It was a long course too. It was like 9 months or 10 months. And
are you leaving? Are you leaving standardized education system to go into this course?
Oh no, it was, you know, it was like once a week or
okay, like
once or twice a week. I can't remember. It was a very thick curriculum though. It was like huge. It was like this binder, and we'd go in and we'd learn all about, you know, different styles of clothes, and we'd learn about how to set a table, and we'd learn about social graces, and we'd learn about
it's deportment. I did a deportment class.
Deportment. I said comportment, but you're right. It's deportment. All right. So yeah,
so you have to look on your head, and you have to walk straight, and we learn makeup, and we learn how to walk the catwalk.
Yeah, exactly. And here I was, sort of an awkward, you know, teenager, you know, not a lot of confidence, and they're asking me to do all these things, you know, like you know, sort of forcing me to put myself out there a little bit. And it was a challenge, but I did enjoy it. And then the biggest surprise came when they asked me to go to New York to a modeling convention.
And how old are you?
I was 16, I think, when they asked me, or 15. And that really surprised me because I had just, you know, I hadn't considered that I could actually model. So they would have a convention at the Waldorf Astoria where all of these girls who wanted to, and men, boys, women who wanted to model would go, and they'd compete, and there'd be a lot of scouts and there'd be a lot of agents. And so it was an opportunity to get discovered, I suppose. So they asked me to go. And that's when I was like, oh, wow, you really think I can model? Like, I thought I was just learning how to set a table. And, you know.
And did you go on your own, or did you go with mom?
I did not go with mom. I went with a group, about 3 or 4 other of the more promising models who'd gone through this course. It was very well supervised and chaperoned, if you will. So, but it was there that I got some interest from an agent as well. Like, someone actually handed me a contract and said, "Yeah, move to New York and model with me." And I was like, "Oh," and so I was excited. I discussed it with my parents when I got home, and of course they freaked out. "What do you mean? You're not going to do that, and it's not going to happen." so I had to wait until the following year, and I went back to New York on my own. And this time I was 17 because I had braces on, like, you know, when they first asked me to go. Anyway, so that's how it started. And then I went back second time, and I got an offer from an even better agent. And I packed up my bags and moved to New York the day after my final exam.
Okay. And so now you're in New York.
Yes.
What happens? Where are you staying? Who are you staying with? Who are the people around you?
Yeah.
Are there people watching you? Are there chaperones?
So my first agency was run by a woman named Kay Mitchell, and she used to head Wilhelmina's women's department. And when Wilhelmina died, she opened Legends, it was called, and it was a new sort of hot agency. And she let me stay in her apartment, and that's what she did with all the girls. She sort of followed Eileen Ford's playbook as far as that went. That's what Eileen Ford used to do, and she would chaperone, and she would make sure that girls were doing the right thing, and, you know, and
safe.
Yeah.
And safe.
Eileen was very much like that. Particularly the girls who stayed in her townhouse with her. So Kay had an apartment on 34th Street, right down the street from the agency. So I stayed with her for a couple weeks. But then there were new girls coming. And so I had to find another apartment, and I went. And it was just this whirlwind, like New York in 1981 was just a whirlwind of activity. It was very artistic. It's like now it's a little bit really too gentrified. Parts of it look like Disney World. Back then it was nitty gritty. Like there were photographers that have these huge lofts in, the area called the Flatiron District. All the artists were in Soho back then. It was a really interesting place. This was right, Studio 54 was going on, like Warhol was around. It was a fascinating
What a time.
Yeah, it was a fascinating time. I know. And here I am, little Laurie from from the little town outside of Buffalo. Yeah. So, but I loved it, Belle. I loved it. I just loved the energy. I loved how everybody was going somewhere, and there was all this potential in the air. People love New York. From all over the world, people want to go there. I consider myself very lucky.
Very lucky. And were you earning any kind of income when you left that flat, which is giving me Models Inc. vibes, by the way, the TV show?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah. So the whole initial part of a career is building your portfolio, because they basically throw out everything you've done up to that point, any hometown photos.
You are left to scout yourself for photographers?
Oh no. They were sending me out and arranging test shoots. And no, the agency was very on top of it. I was going on multiple appointments a day. I was doing photo shoots. It was full on. So, and then I think they thought I was going to be more of a catalog model, and which is like a bright, sort of cheerful, Midwestern look that you can make a lot of money doing catalog. It's not really that high-end top model stuff. Like there are catalog models that make so much money and you never would know their name. But one of my first tests, they had me in a leopard print and big hair, and I didn't look like a Midwestern girl. So with a big smile on my face. So they sort of started to go, oh, we think Laurie's she's gonna do editorial, which means magazine work. So they arranged for me to go over to Italy. That's where most of the new girls went, was to go over to Milan. And it was much easier to work for magazines there. They loved discovering new models, and they would book you straight away. That doesn't happen in New York. You basically have to be established to work for the magazine. So that was the route. So they introduced me to an agent, a scout, and then all these different agencies would work together. So like Legends became my mother agency, but then they would work with various agents in Milan and various agents in Paris and various agents in London and in the various cities in Germany as well. Or later, they'd start working with the Japanese and also with Brazil. So it was like an international network.
So they're sharing models, or they are sending you to gigs in all of these countries? Are you getting contracts for brands in these countries?
So the way that it would work is that, you'd go into a new market and you'd work for that agent. Like, for instance, when I went to Milan the first time, you'd be signed with Ricardo Guy or Model Plan, and then they ran your career for the next few months. And the plan was you'd be there for about 3 months, and then you'd go back to New York. And then, you'd see how it went. Some models stayed a really long time in their European, when they landed somewhere in Europe. What I did is I went to Milan. I did fairly well. I started working for some of the Vogues. I had, a pretty good run. I came back to New York. Then I went back to Milan. Then I went off to Paris. And I
18, 19 at the
Yes, I'm 18 and then into 19. So I turned 19 in Milan. So I talk all about it in my memoir, Men in Me Too, because it's sort of a very interesting world that not a lot of people understand how it works. There's a lot of interest in it because it's very glamorous, but the the backstory of it is what people don't really see. And so I wanted to show that partially. And I also, of course, the dynamics of what went on with the various people comes up, and how I was able to manage situations and the different power dynamics, and that, sense of resiliency and boundary drawing.
Did you find pride in what you were doing, or did you feel like a pawn being shared around for work?
I didn't feel like a pawn. I thought it was all very wonderful and exciting.
Yeah.
I still was not very confident. So to me, it was, even when I worked for Vogue in Italy, it was like there was a disconnect, like that. Okay, what does that mean? And can I really do this? And so I sort of always struggled with that, almost like this imposter syndrome.
Did you keep that in, or were you externally nervous?
It depended on the job. Like sometimes I could just go in and I could do fabulous and keep it under check. And sometimes I would just, be a nervous wreck. There's a lot of pressure, because on a shoot you have it's not just about you and a photographer. There's a client, there's designers, there's, editors, there's a whole production crew. And then, it's like the camera turns on you and it's like, okay, go, perform. Yes.
Put it on.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was true, my whole career. So I was very used to dealing with high pressure situations, and having to sort of manage that, as well as all the personalities.
Oh, yeah. And what about your mental health with the feedback? Was the feedback positive, or were you experiencing things like, oh, she needs to lose a pound or a kilo or two, or how was the feedback?
That's a great question, Belle. And that's something that I talk to some girls now and young women who are interested in the field. And that is something that is just endemic that's how it works. That's how it rolls. There's always going to be someone to critique you. And, you put yourself out there. It's part of the industry. You sort of are the commodity. Yes, you're selling the dress, or you're selling a hair product, or you're selling a cosmetic, but it's so personal, and people will, back then, I think even now, you get a lot of negative feedback.
This podcast is supported by our friends at ActiveFlex, the Australian pain-relieving gel designed for long-lasting relief for painful muscles and joints. Always read the label and follow the directions for use. If your symptoms persist, please seek advice from a healthcare professional. You can shop online at alphasport.com.au and use my special code, BEL10, BEL10. And that's just a little special code for you as a listener of the podcast, using the discount code at alphasport.com.au.
Go, you're too fat, you're too skinny. I've heard everything. Eileen Ford once told me my eyes photographed too close together for her taste.
Can't change this.
Most of it you can't change, right? So, and then, of course, she ended up representing me for 7 years later in my career. So my eyes didn't move further away. It's just, sometimes I think it's random. Sometimes I think it's power play. Sometimes they actually need someone who's a little taller or a little shorter or you have to fit the clothes.
Right.
But it can be very brutal. And it doesn't necessarily fashion doesn't necessarily attract the most kind-hearted people, right? So fashion attracts like artists and people who are boundary breakers and people who want to shock or to do something different. And so, they're not just like nice people like that would go into nursing or teaching, so you're dealing with that type of personality quite frequently.
And were you safe? Did you feel safe in Milan? Did you feel safe in these countries that you were being sent to work?
I did until I didn't, and, you're very naive when you walk into a foreign country, not knowing anybody, not speaking the language. So I was optimistic always.
Were you dating? Did you have boyfriends?
I did have a boyfriend back in my hometown
Right.
who grounded me. Long distance, yeah, went on for years actually. And it was, yeah, I think it really helped me through those years. But it couldn't protect me from whatever would come my way as well. So, I was roofied in Milan, uh, you know,
At a
assaulted.
nightclub?
Yes,
By
yes,
a
yes.
stranger?
Uh, Semi-stranger, yeah, a group. Yeah. So I managed to get out of it because some friend of mine from Buffalo, who was a model as well, intervened. It's in my book, the whole story, and that whole period of Milan. I do a chapter on that, and
Did they remove
so
you from the nightclub?
sorry.
Were they able to remove you from the nightclub? The people that were
Yes,
roofing?
yes. Well, not them. I ended up, someone else had taken me back and sort of protected me during the evening. I had thought that they were involved, but they weren't. When I woke up the next morning, like what's going on? I actually thought that person was involved, but actually, while I was writing my book, I found out through speaking to this man who had saved me, the model, and he got in a fisticuffs with the people, and he actually had to go back to America to have some reconstructive surgery. He was a model. Yeah, yeah. He got the better of them, but he also took a blow.
And just for
Uh,
listeners to know, this doesn't just happen in the modeling world. I have three personal friends that have been roofied. One was a young girl, and she was in Germany, and she was walking down the street with her friend, and people came up behind with a piece of cloth with something on it and put
oh
it
my
over her
goodness.
face. So she collapsed, but she was also, like yourself, very lucky to be saved by a passerby. Another was a
Wow.
friend in Brisbane in a club called Fridays, and she was playing pool,
Mm-hmm.
and she had something slipped into her drink. And luckily, her friend took her home. And then the other one was in South Africa, and yeah, she was given something in her drink and was escorted out of the pub by the culprits, but the boyfriend saw and luckily rescued her.
Intervened.
So this
Wow.
happens all over the world now, not
It
just
does. It
back in the
does.
day.
It's frightening. And,
Mm.
it didn't have a word. There wasn't a word for it back then. I think the word roofie is relatively new in the last, I
Mm.
mean, I'm old, so new for me is like the last 20 years. But yeah, it's frightening that this happens to women, and it's astounding how frequently it happens.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Okay, so
Mhm.
that was a very, very lucky escape for you at that time. Very
Yes,
scary.
very scary,
Did it
but
make you want to go home?
um, I think it. I think that particular incident helped me realize how fragile my safety was. I hadn't realized how fragile it was before. Young, naive, nothing can go wrong, everything's going to be fine. And yet, just
We're
like that,
invincible. We're invincible,
things,
right?
yeah, absolutely. When you're that age, you just don't think, well, bad things won't happen to me. And it made me realize how quickly things can change. And also sometimes how, no matter how vigilant you are, things can still happen, because there's a lot of blame that women go through when they're attacked or they're roofied or they're assaulted. And there's a lot of self-blame that women
Yeah.
can sort of stew in. I should have
Yeah.
done this. Why did I do that? Oh my God.
And
But
then
some,
people will also flat out say, what was she doing there? Why was she wearing that? Did you see the way she was hanging all over him? Of course,
mm,
that's going to happen. Like, this is just women blaming. It's just
it,
101.
it
And
is.
these things are still said now.
I know. I know.
She's
I think,
asking for it.
oh goodness. Yeah. I hope, Belle, I hope this is changing. I really do think it is. Um, and I can only hope that particularly with the, the news and the Epstein files, and the way that those women have for decades been first called like prostitutes, and then not really identified as victims, not been listened to, not understood the dynamic at play, the coercion, the power dynamic, the threats, how you're reeled into a trafficking situation. Like, people have just, I think, been ignorant about the system or how that type of abuse works.
Did you see any of the trafficking with all the young girls you were coming across in your early career? Did you see any girls that were handpicked from other countries and taken advantage of?
Well, there's, girls were always coming and going, so there was always like a fresh crop of models. The trafficking aspect, I didn't understand that until later, when I was writing my book, and I realized that in a moment that I had in the south of France with my roommate from Paris, who had asked me to go down with her. And we had this weekend, and we were with a very wealthy man. He ended up being the 5th richest man in the world. And he would have like this entourage. And we were with her friend, who was a man, who had brought us there. We just thought we were having a great time in the south of France. And it was later that I found out who he was, and that he was not only the 5th richest man in the world, but he had sort of bankrupted a very big financial institution, a big bank of commerce, and he somehow hadn't been held accountable, and he was an arms dealer, and he was also investigated for trafficking. He was on Interpol. Like, he was like this criminal. He was totally dangerous.
Yeah.
And I had found myself, I was the last thing we did was we went on the yacht, this big yacht, and we were having lunch on some remote beach somewhere. And it was just my friend and I, and like, there's a lot of older men. And I was just like, what is going on here? And that's when I started, like, look, I said to my roommate, Sharon, like, we have to get out of here. Yeah, we have to make sure we get back on this plane to Paris. And I had a booking the next day. And so we sort of twisted my roommate's friend's arm to make sure that we left on time. And we did get out of that. But I have, since I started my activism work, heard of women who were trafficked or who disappeared, models who just disappeared into some harem somewhere or were sold. One of my survivor sisters was actually trafficked to Adnan Khashoggi and spent years with him before she realized that he had paid $50,000 to be introduced to her. So yeah, it is like, it's been a very eye-opening time in my life to understand the depth of it all. Yeah.
The layers.
And how the layers, and also, how close I was to all of this. Yeah. I mean, my mom used to light candles every week for me, and I think about that. And I think I must have had some guardian angel helping me through it all.
You did.
Mm.
Okay, so up until now, at this age, you're still 19. You're back in Paris, and your eyes are opening. You've had 2 experiences now that have opened your eyes. One, you didn't feel safe on that ship, on that yacht, and the other one was the drugging. Are you still considering this as a career path? Are you still, or are you teetering on the edge of I need to be really careful? Is that your mindset?
Yeah. So the thing that I was learning was that this was how the world worked as far as men went. So it wasn't necessarily tied to my career. So this was an era when you could not walk by a construction site without a man, all the men, whistling, harassing you. You couldn't walk down a street in any major city without someone talking to you, commenting. So there was sort of this.
This was life to you. This just felt like life. This is my job, but also I'm going to get this anywhere.
I got it everywhere. I think there was just this men felt this freedom to, like, women were objects that they could talk to any way they wanted, pounce on. I've had men grab me in the subway, you know, in my private parts. I've had, you know, people in Milan. I had some old guy rubbing up against me, which is called frauderism, by the way. I found out as a therapist. There's a word. There's actually a diagnosis for people who do that. So I had these.
That means that pretty much every male I worked with at a specific retail store that I worked at, and they had what they would call the hump of the day.
Oh, no.
So the product that they wanted to sell, that the boss wanted to sell that day, would be the hump of the day, and then all the male salesmen would go up and hump it before starting work.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just sat through those meetings for
Wow.
years. Every day we'd have these sales meetings.
Wow.
And there was a hump of the day product that I just had to,
wow.
in my brain, this is normal. This is just what males do. I don't know why we don't do it. We don't have a hump of the day as a female.
Wow.
I don't want to participate in that.
Wow. And by the way, that was just normalized in your work setting.
Completely normal.
Completely. Yeah. Yeah. So it was, you know, it was everywhere. It wasn't just, so I didn't think it was specifically attached to my career. Like this trip that I did to the south of France had nothing to do with modeling. It was just my girlfriend invited me. My roommate. Yeah. Invited me to go.
Yeah. Okay. And so what was next for Laurie?
In there and in that time in Paris, that's when I was, you know, assaulted by Gerald Marie. And
was your manager?
Yes, he was the head of Paris planning, and he gave me a big talk at a party that he had. There was a lot of fashion people there. I felt quite good to be invited, and he told me how he was going to make me a star, all this stuff. You know, I look back now, I go, but you know, I sort of, it wasn't
verbal. So it's all
verbally
talk. So there's no gifts, there's no money. This is
no, but I had already been doing quite well in Paris. Like I did a cosmetic campaign for Germaine Montet. I had booked a hair product, Elegance, in Greece. So I went there. It was TV, print. Like I hit Paris.
Those for you?
Yes. So it was my agency. So it was a big, there were big jobs. I was just walked in and like straight away.
You felt like you owed him already because he was getting you these good jobs?
Well, I mean, yeah, I owed him my time. And, you know, it's a partnership, an agent and a model. You know, they're working for you, you're working for them, right? They're getting you bookings, they're sending you to meet people, they're negotiating for you. It's a relationship that you have with them, right? I mean, particularly early on, they have most of the power, right? So that was true. But if you book something, they're going to be happy because they get the money. Right. And it's exactly. And back then they were taking 70% of what I earned in France.
Wow. So you're at a party. Do you know anybody at this party?
Yeah, no, I know. I knew people, I knew other models, and we have this big talk, and I was very excited, and that he was right, and he had the sort of power to open doors. He ended up marrying Linda Evangelista and made her obviously a superstar. Now, of course, she's gorgeous on her own right, and she deserves what she achieved in the industry, but he started her in her career at the big time, because she had done some things before, but she was catapulted into that status with him. So that was after me, well after, you know, my interaction with him. So, but I, you know, the party was thinning out and I was going to leave. I just asked to use the loo. You know, he told me where it was. I went, and on the way back, I was just grabbed and shoved through a door. It all happened very fast, and he was on top of me, and next thing I knew, I was fighting for, you know, my safety and my body. And it was awful, you know, it was really, really awful. It was him, you know, and you figured out it was him straight away. His curls were just like landing on my face. I was like, oh my God, I started trying to reason with him. I was fighting him, screaming, telling him to stop. Um, Again, I don't know, it was like a little guardian angel moment, but I managed it after quite a long time of fighting with him. And basically, I'm totally disheveled and his hands were everywhere anyway. But I managed to sort of roll him over and jump off. And he was surprised and I was surprised, and I ran out of there. And then he sabotaged my career after that. I had Elle bookings like for 2 or 3 different trips that were on my chart. So, and you did an Elle magazine spread back then, and you would just, your career was made. So I walked into the agency and he called them up in front of me and he hung up the phone and he said, they're all canceled. Yeah. So that's that. I was,
Did he pretend that it didn't happen?
He never said anything about the assault, but he looked at me with cold eyes when I first walked into the agency. I had an appointment like the next working day at the agency. Looked at me, asked for my chart, got on the phone straight away. He said, I'm going to see about these Elle bookings that Laurie has. Called him up, talked to them in French. He's looking at me. And then he hung up the phone and he said, they're all canceled.
That's the power. That's the power.
It was the power. Yeah. Yeah, it was.
And what did you do? Did you say anything, or
I cried.
Speechless? You
I
cried.
was speechless, and then the tears just started coming down. And there was another booker there, Isabel, who was lovely. There's several bookers. I mean, he was just the head of the agency, so he had the most power. So she came over, oh, Laurie, sit down. You know, she didn't know what had happened. And look, you know, there's an agent in Hamburg. They really want you to go over there. Why don't you leave Paris for a little while? Why don't you go work in Hamburg? I'll organize for you to go. And so that's what I did.
Do you think in hindsight that was her role in the job, to clear out the girls that he no longer has time for?
I'm not sure. I don't want to believe that, because I want to believe that she was a good person.
I had your back, yeah.
Yeah, I do want to believe that. There was another woman there who I know did not have models' backs.
Yeah.
She was unfortunately in charge of new faces. I have to believe there was a few good eggs there.
Yeah.
And I think she was one of them. So I did end up coming back to Paris. I kept my apartment there with my roommate. So I went back and forth, and then I continued to work with the agency, just not with Gerald at all. And then I finally just left and went back to New York and continued my career in New York.
And you never saw him again?
I never saw him again, no.
Mm-mm. And then New York. Please tell me the men in New York were different.
Well, you know, New York.
They breed them different?
Yeah, New York is very, very, it's very business, you know, so relatively safe, I'd say. Yeah, relatively safe. You'd always get some photographer that was, you know, asking you to, you know, take off your clothes, or, you know, trying to push boundaries. And so, you know, that's why, you know, I had to learn so quickly about how to handle so much and how to set boundaries, and the real, you know, necessity of them, and the power within them. Even if I had to lose jobs, even if I had to, upset anybody, you know, all of that didn't matter. I made the decision when I got into the industry that I would never do anything that I would regret.
Right. So you never sat
No, I never did anything.
You never did. Because in the industry, I wonder if, I don't know how to word this, Laurie. I'm just, as you're talking, I'm having memories of my own life. And I remember there was a photographer, and I was 19, and he wanted to take photos of me. And great, I love photos of me. Let's go. So he used to come to my house, and he was old, and he used to take photos of me. And then one day he asked me to take my clothes off. And it shocked me
Mhm.
And I did not do that. And we continued taking photos. And I just wondered if for a model, perhaps that would feel like a natural progression for art.
Well, there was always people asking, and sometimes very professional people, like professional photographers would do artistic nudes all the time. I mean, you can
But you'd
probably
made a deal
find
with yourself early on, no regrets. I will do only what I want Laurie to do.
yes. Yeah. And look, and there are art photographers out there who do beautiful nudes. I'm not against anybody doing nudes at all. I think that it can be very tasteful.
Yeah.
And I think the human form is beautiful, and a woman's body is beautiful. Right. Yeah. So I don't have anything against it. I just, for me,
all the intentions behind it. That's
of course.
That's where we're going here. It's
yes, that was sort of
It's about the intention, and also what they can hold over you and who has these. That's what I always was worried about. It was in the day of the digital era for mine. It was at the very cusp of when digital was coming out, so I was very well aware of that as well.
Good for you. Yeah, for saying no. And again, it's just about your own comfort level. So if you don't want to do something, you shouldn't feel you have to. You shouldn't be coerced into anything. You should be able to just live your life as you want to, and have those boundaries around your behavior and your body if you want. Absolutely. Yeah.
So what was the next step for you, Laurie?
Well, from there, I just sort of started working in New York, and my career took off, and I was doing, ads and TV commercials and catalog, and I was still doing some editorial, because I had built up enough photos in my book to work in New York. I did go back to Europe. I went to London. I worked there. I came back to New York and then worked back in New York. So I was just part of this sort of I guess top models who work throughout the international circuit. And I kept.
And you met Oprah.
That was after. No, that was well and truly after.
Well, let's get to that later. But keep going now. So that was
no. But I did. I mean, look, I met even when I was in Paris. During that whole tumultuous time with Paris planning. I mean, I met Mick Jagger and hung out and partied with him. And Roman Polanski was a friend.
So jealous right now.
Yeah. There's, I had lunch with Warren Beatty at the Plaza Athénée. I mean, it's all in my book. There's very juicy parts in there, if anybody's interested in sort of a celeb gossip.
So I saw on your social media that you had met Dodi Fayed, Roman Polanski, Warren Beatty, Mick Jagger, and Whitney Houston. And I want to guess which one of those you dated and which one mentored you.
Okay.
I guess.
Yes.
Okay, the mentor, I'm going to say, is Whitney?
No.
Oh, well, I'm not going to say Roman Polanski.
No, he wasn't really a mentor. No.
Okay, well, you've already said you just met Mick, so I'm going to say you dated Dodi?
Yes.
You
did. I did.
Oh.
He was, again, well and truly before Princess Diana and all. It was terrible when I heard the news. I was affected. I mean, it was look, we weren't that serious. We dated briefly for a couple months. I think we had like 5 dates or something. I was introduced to him by Eileen Ford after I long-term relationship I was having with someone in the fashion industry split, and Eileen asked me if I was seeing anybody. I said, no. Do you know anybody? I don't know why I said that. And she's like, oh,
this hot guy Dodi.
So we had look, he was a very intelligent man, very sophisticated. He was an entire gentleman the entire time that we went out. I took him on a first date to a street fair in New York, and I had no idea really who he was. He just picked me up, and then all of a sudden, like, there's this guy following us. I'm like, oh my God, he's got a bodyguard. Like, what's going on? What's happening here? So, and then being
a gentleman and being so lovely man from what you're saying. That's
Mhm.
why Diana liked him.
I think so. I totally get the attraction. I really do. He
Needed
he
it.
was very polished. And when The Crown came out, and I watched it, of course, and I paid particular attention to the season that he was in, and I really could see, and I hadn't understood how he sort of was affected by his father, and how he was, always trying to sort of please his father and live up to his father's expectations. I mean, when I was dating him, he was already an award-winning movie producer. He had produced Chariots of Fire.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Yes. And they owned the Ritz, I believe. And
So
well,
Dodi
he's
Fayed
passed away
owns the
now.
Ritz. Yeah.
He's passed. And supposedly he was a big predator as well. So it's another story, another sideline. But and Harrods, of course. So he had bought Harrods, and then he ran Harrods for quite a while.
Yeah.
So I think
And do you think the portrayal of Dodi was quite accurate in his personality?
I thought so. I thought he was a little too meek in the show, in The Crown.
He was a stronger man, wasn't he?
He was a stronger man than what they portrayed. They portrayed him a little bit like,
a handbag.
Yeah, limp, and not. He wasn't like that. He was a very, he had a big, strong presence about him, but also, like I said, very gentlemanly. So
I couldn't bring myself to watch that last series.
Yeah, okay.
I watched all of them, but because I just felt for William and Harry. That's why I couldn't watch it, just for respect for them, because it was just,
okay.
And for them to see that come alive in a way that they have no input. Those boys had no input into the portrayal of their mother and her life. I couldn't watch it. They came out, unless those two boys came out and said, I love it. That's the perfect representation of our beautiful mother.
I thought they handled her quite well. I thought it was quite positive, the way that they showed Diana in it. I don't think that she was misrepresented. I didn't go, that's terrible. Why did they show her in a bad light? I thought she was in a good light, actually. But everybody has their stuff, right? We all have our stuff. Nobody's perfect. People struggle. They handle it different ways. So, I think.
I didn't get to guess your mentor.
Oh.
Okay. So we dated Dodi.
Mm-hmm.
Just for the listener, it's Dodi, Roman,
Warren. And you're going by the chapter in my book, right? So because I named the chapters as each chapter of the book is on. I tell my story through the men that I met, and one of the chapters is called The Mentor. But okay, I think that's what you're doing. But go ahead, Belle. There's not many people left. You have to guess.
You're giving me a hint that it's not Whitney because.
No, Whitney and I did a catalog together. Yeah, a catalog shoot together.
My Whitney.
I know. I loved Whitney too. It's just tragic that she's passed. Really tragic. So, but also maybe lost in that world,
The people around her. I always blame the people around them. Minders, surely.
Yeah. Yeah. I've watched a lot of documentaries on her too, and I don't know what the fascination was with the bad boy that she had. Like she sort of fell into that, and because her talent was so, it's just astronomical.
I was just about to say astronomical.
Really?
You just took that from me. She was absolutely divine.
Yeah, she really was.
Presence, everything about Whitney.
Yeah.
Of course she was going to be a star.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I actually was.
Okay. All right. So it was Warren Beatty.
Hey.
Yeah.
Before Madonna or after Madonna?
Oh, must be
Pre.
I don't know, actually. It must be before. I mean, this is back in 1982. So I think
before then.
Yeah, it was before then. But he was. See, the thing is that there's always these sort of celebrities that hang out. Models go and they like to dance, and they're in this sort of circle, and fashion people are also in that circle, and then you get celebrities in that circle. So it was a girl that was staying with my roommate and I who was dating him, and then he called the apartment, and he and I had a conversation, and then he said, oh yeah, call me sometime if you want. Like, she was just away, and I called him about an issue I was having, with work, and I was thinking Joel Marie was sabotaging my career again, and he said, come over and have lunch with me. I said, okay.
Did you share what happened with Warren?
With
Warren, did you share what had happened with Warren?
No, I don't think I did.
Yourself?
I just denied it. It happened, and it was so overwhelming and so awful, and I wanted to block it out. I put it in a little box in my psyche, and I didn't tell anybody. I don't know if I felt shame, or it was probably overwhelmed at the experience. I didn't
protection mode.
Right. So when I talked to Warren, it was more about, oh, well, I don't understand this business, because it's not logical. It's an artistic business, like I said before. So it's not like you can perform and do well like science, or you study something and then you take the test, or you make the discovery and you put in effort and it's rewarded. It's very fluid, and you never know if someone's going to hire you because it's subjective, and someone might like this about you but not that, and then it's political, and so there's all these elements to it that I didn't understand, because
Did he have any good advice for you?
He did. He was absolutely wonderful.
What was the best piece?
He was wonderful. He just listened to me. He shared some of his stories and how his sort of journey in the business, and yeah, he was saying, look, you can't change who you are. You just have to own it. Like all this, like, oh, you're too this or you're too that, or, your nose is too short or too long, or he's just like, because he was a very handsome man. I mean, he still is a handsome older man, but he was strikingly gorgeous back in the day. And that could have worked against him. And he talked about that too, but he didn't fight it. That's just who he was. Right. So he got very interesting roles. In fact, I spoke to him right after Reds had come out, which was a blockbuster movie that he directed and wrote and starred in, and nominated for something like 12 Academy Awards, and he won 4. So he was saying, don't limit yourself by other people's concepts of who you are. So it was brilliant. It was brilliant. It was lovely. It was just what I needed at the time. Yeah. And then after lunch, I left. I said, see you. Thank you so much. It was lovely.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. And I just want to touch on that just really briefly. So I have the same idea. Be who you are. Like you have to be your authentic self, right? I hate that word, your authentic self, but it's actually a real thing. And I was discussing with my girlfriends the other day a woman's prime, because my son said to me the other day, Megan Fox, Google Megan Fox prime. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, oh, well, when she was in her prime. And I said, got me discussing prime and what that means. Mm-hmm. Like if I think back to when, for Megan Fox, he was assuming her prime was when she was the most beautiful. So we'll talk about the Transformers era, so maybe 20s. You look back at a photo of me at 20, I'm better now than I looked when I'm 20. And I don't know if that's a mental thing, but it's definitely a real thing for me. Look at my 30s. I don't think that was my prime. Mm-hmm. My 40s, early 40s, that wasn't my prime. I'm 47 now, and I think this is my prime. And I'm not talking about the physicality of what I look like. It's about the who I am, what my view is of the world and what my view is of myself. So I had that conversation with him. I think he was so bored, but he's 13 and I really want him to understand that prime, Googling a woman doesn't have to be what you look like. Yeah. It's the opposite of what your career has been. Would you think, when was your prime?
Yeah. I'm with you.
Your prime.
I'm with you. I sort of embrace every era that I'm in, and I try not to go look back and sort of judge too much what I was or how I looked, or I just sort of try to live in the moment. But can I just say, Belle, that the way that you handled that discussion with your son, even it was brilliant and it was so necessary. And, you know, myself and all the women who are listening, and probably dads too, will go, thank you so much, because these are conversations that we need to have with young people and young boys, and just helping them to see people and women in a broader light. And he might have just gone, oh yeah, whatever, but it sinks in. It sinks in. So good on you for doing that.
Oh, yeah. It's so important. It's so important. And then the other thing that I really love about what you do is that you've named in your book some men that built you up. You've named some safe men, and you're out there saying to men, stand up for women. And that's the biggest thing. That's my pet hate, is the men that'll say, it's not all men, or even women say it. It's not all men. Women do it too. And I just think that's a really unfair call. Has a man ever walked through the streets at night with a key in their fingers to protect themselves? Are they fearful walking to their car at dusk? Are they fearful that they can't exercise at night? I don't think that they are. Unless they're living in the Bronx, which is probably now gentrified, but unless they're living somewhere that's unsafe, they probably have not. And stand up, guys. And I say call out bad behavior.
Absolutely.
Men, that's what we need.
You know, men don't have the same experience in the world that women do, and they don't understand because they don't have to deal with, like you say, worrying about walking at night, holding your key in your car, being hypervigilant at various times. They don't have that worry and that reality that women do. So, but I think that the conversations happening today are opening men's eyes to the experience of women. And I think that it's incredibly important that men join us, join women in this push that we're doing to stop the violence, whether it's, you know, sexual assault or whether it's the sort of dangling things and power plays and just.
Can we say it's a mindset? Would it be safe to say that it's a mindset? How many women lead their lives by their lady parts? How many women? How many women walk into a meeting and think, I will give him the job if he gives me a little bit of something. Or I will ruin Bruce's career if he doesn't let me touch his ass. Come on.
Yeah.
Is it a mental health issue? Are the brains wired differently? Are there scientists out there who can tell us? Because I don't know of any woman who's going to have that mindset walking into an interview.
Yeah, I think it's just, you know, sort of like how society has tolerated this sort of thinking and behavior, men's sexual desire or desire for control or dominance, because we know that, you know, DV and sexual assault and rape are really about power and control. You know, it's not sexual. It's about power. And so that really is something that needs to be addressed and acknowledged. And again, to get back to this idea that men need to join us. So men have mothers, men have sisters, some of them, men have girlfriends or wives, or they have a niece or daughters. Absolutely. And you know, there's so many good men out there. I've met so many in my life. But I think there's a little bit like, they don't want to sort of talk about it, what other men are doing, or call men up when they need to, and they need to start getting engaged. We need both sexes, both genders, to join this fight against violence against women. And you know, I'm really hoping that is this, you know, that the floodgates will fly open, and that's what will start happening. I see it now, like with the Epstein files. I see that there's a lot of male congressmen who are coming forward with various bills
Evidence?
for like Virginia's law. I don't know if you heard about Virginia's law that
Please tell
they're
me.
just putting up to get rid of the statute of limitations. Yeah, for sexual violence, and have a look back window so that all these survivors can have their day in court and be heard. So there's a lot of men who are coming onto this, recognizing the problem, recognizing the dynamic, recognizing the power imbalance, recognizing how wrong this is, that women should have to deal with this type of violence and control and the power that men are exerting over them, and they're stepping up. So I'm very hopeful, Belle. I'm very hopeful.
It's not just the elite. I've seen, like, so that was the shock, right? Some of the most disturbing cases in recent history have shown us exploitation doesn't just live in back alleys. It's in penthouses and it's in aircrafts. But I've also seen it in completely ugly, boring, disgusting men. So we're looking at, yes, this guy has money, and yes, he can groom a girl, but also these men that are just normal everyday blokes seem to have the same mentality. So I think that's a bit of a shock that it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, I know. It is a shock. And I suppose that it's good that the light is on it very heavily right now. And we need to expose what's going on. That's the only way things change. I mean, I'm a therapist. I've been a therapist now for 28 years. That's the whole purpose of therapy. Shine a light, see what's going on, sort of get rid of that darkness and the different experiences or abuses that people have been keeping hidden, kept inside of themselves, and that have been eating them and creating all these maladaptive behaviors that they, is unhealthy.
You did it. I did it. Hid
Yes.
traumas. And I'll just say therapy, full stop,
Yes.
is the best
It's the best
thing I have ever done.
Good for you.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
The way that it can just take those bricks that are just on your chest and remove them.
Yes.
Congratulations on your pivot. What made you study at Columbia?
That was a big pivot, wasn't it? When you think about it, going from an international fashion model to a therapist. But I recognized that my career had helped me develop as a woman, and it opened the world for me. I became a lot more sophisticated. I understood culture and art, and through living in various places and traveling, I had just a very unique perspective and understanding of the world. And I grew, and I did become more confident, and I was able to handle myself. So I had all of these, like a good result, despite all of the sort of issues that I had to deal with as well. But when that all came to an end, I was like, okay, well, enough belly button gazing, like I really need to do something meaningful in my life. Like I want to help and affect other people positively. And that was a really big thing for me. So my mom was like, oh, you're going to go back and study finance or something. I was like, no. And when she found out I was going to be, a social worker and work in mental health, she was like, oh, okay, but
it's a calling. It's definitely a calling.
Yeah, she was a nurse, so she sort of understood as well. But I really did. I really felt that I had to do something to be a helper. And I didn't realize I'd become a mental health practitioner. I thought I'd get into consulting or something like that. But as my journey at Columbia University started going, I had to go back for my undergraduate, my bachelor degree, and then I found this pathway to get my master's in clinical social work in an advanced program that I was admitted to. So I just took the opportunity and I started therapy. I loved it. I thought, I think I was always a therapist. People would always come to me, with things that they were struggling with. And I was always a good listener, very empathetic. So I think it was really a good fit. And I feel so grateful that I've been able to help, hundreds and hundreds. It might be over 1,000 or 2,000. I actually don't keep track of all of my clients, but it's been a good run. And I feel really honored to have witnessed people's lives and help them to move forward in a healthier way.
I'm so proud. I'm so proud to have spoken to you today. I've got you up here on a pedestal, young lady.
Oh my God,
right up here.
That is so sweet. That is so nice of you to say. It's just been a pleasure to be on your show and have this talk. It's been very organic and just so delightful too. I think we're on the same page with so many things and issues, and I'm glad we can share our thoughts today with your audience.
So, Men and Me Too, where can our listeners find this book?
So it's on Booktopia here in Australia, as well as Amazon. So if you're not an Amazon fan these days, just go to Booktopia and order it. It's available worldwide. You'll see it's getting really good reviews. People are saying some very nice things about it, and I'll just leave you in your audience to look and see. Look, it's sort of a fun exploration of some of the deeper issues that you and I have talked about. Yeah. So it's not heavy, but it also is enlightening, right? So it talks about, boundaries, and it's about resilience, and it's about empowerment, but it's in this backdrop of like this very glamorous industry
aesthetic.
And a very glamorous life. Yeah. It's an easy read. People say it's an easy read, and I'm grateful for being able to reach women and have these sorts of conversations. And men. Oh yeah, thank you for saying that.
Oh,
because men
I know that you want the men as well.
Yeah, there are men, and me too. No,
she doesn't want
men are
the
giving
men
me really
we
good.
don't have a package like the males where she didn't even think that.
Now the men are giving me great reviews too. So it is not just a gender specific book. It's for both. And it's and if you're interested in, interested in fashion, you'll definitely learn a bit about what that was like, or just want to read a book on resilience.
See, Warren Beatty.
Yes, there's also that whole celebrity aspect to it,
Oh, thank you so much, Laurie. You are an absolute gem, and I look forward to having my husband read your book before me.
Very good. Yes,
we can discuss it together.
That's a great idea, a great thing to do. And thank you again, Belle. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and your audience. And it's been absolutely delightful.
And I will say that we are both in our prime.
I am.
Look at us.
I'm probably in a later prime than you, but yes, every age is a prime.
Yes, every age. Thank you, Laurie.
All right. Thank you, Belle.
Thanks for listening to Once Upon a Real Life with Belle. Don't forget to visit alphasport.com.au with your special discount code BELLE10 for 10% off Active Flex Pain Relieving Gel. My name's Belle. See you on the next episode.